We have close to 200 participants now, so maybe we can get started, Doctor, so we can be on schedule. And I think, students will join. So anyway, hello and good afternoon, everyone. And I am Prarthana, and it is indeed a great pleasure to facilitate this webinar today. I would like to welcome each of you to this session that is being conducted for FFE Medical Scholars. Thank you so much for making yourselves available. I would now like to introduce you all to our speaker for this afternoon. Dr. E. Debaraju Reddy is a consultant general and laparoscopic surgeon, occupational physician and industrial health expert, hospital administration and healthcare management consultant. Dr. Debaraju completed his MBBS from VIMSAR, Burla, Sambalpur University at Odisha. He is currently a consultant surgeon at SLG Hospitals and Apollo Spectra Hospitals, Hyderabad. In his free time, Dr. Debaraju enjoys playing both outdoor and indoor games, spending time with his kids, and catching up with friends. We welcome Dr. Debaraju Reddy, and we really appreciate your presence here today. We also have the Managing Trustee for Foundation for Excellence, Dr. Sudha Kidao, and the COO, Mr. Ram Kolavenu, present here. Also present is Priyanka Ramesh from the Alumni Relations team, who has organized this event. Thank you so much, Priyanka, for doing this. I would like to move forward and present the agenda for today's session. Dr. Debaraju will talk about the expectations of the medical journey. This will be an interactive session followed by question and answers at the end of the event. I request all the attendees to use the chat option for any communication, and in case of any questions you may have, please post it under the Q&A button. Over to you, Dr. Debaraju Reddy, and thank you once again for being here with us this afternoon. We really appreciate your time.
Thanks a lot, Sadhana, for your kind words. And very good afternoon and warm welcome to all of the FFE scholars and panelists. I'm really excited to meet you all and hope it will be a learning for each one of us. So we will start with a small prayer for 2 to 3 minutes. I think any good work, it's good always to start with a prayer. And I request all of you stand up for a while.
Doctor, you'll have to share your computer audio. We cannot hear the music otherwise. Just go up to the options on top if you move your thing, and you have 3 dots. Not here, on the sharing screen, no?
Okay, yes.
Just move your mouse right up on top of your screen, and then the options for sharing screen will come down. Where you can, and then there are 3 dots. You have to go there and say share computer sound.
Not coming now?
No, we're not getting the audio.
Somebody else is, I think.
You go right, or move your cursor right on top.
Yeah, 3 dots.
Click that and say share computer sound.
Share computer sound. Now I think it's okay.
Yes.
Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय सर्वेषां स्वस्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां शान्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां पूर्णं भवतु सर्वेषां मङ्गलं भवतु लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय सर्वेषां स्वस्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां शान्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां पूर्णं भवतु सर्वेषां मङ्गलं भवतु लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय सर्वेषां स्वस्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां शान्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां पूर्णं भवतु सर्वेषां मङ्गलं भवतु लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
I have this question for you. What do you mean?
Is it visible? Screen is visible to all?
Yes, yes, doctor, we can see.
Yeah. Let's start. All are excited as I am? Hello?
They will not be able to turn their audio, doctor.
Okay.
No
Okay,
audio,
fine,
no
fine.
video. Yeah,
Oh,
but they will be active on the chat.
Okay,
They will-
fine.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
fine,
if you're
fine.
asking any interactive questions,
Then we will start in the Q&A session. No problem. Okay.
no, the Q&A, yes, at the end, but any other interactive questions while you're making the presentation, we can, you can ask them and they will answer it in the chat option.
Okay, then you monitor that one, madam. so
Yes,
that
I will monitor. Yes, I will monitor.
Fine. Okay, hope we enjoyed the powerful mantra, which every one of us know the actual meaning. Are you able to see my video? Not yet.
No, we are on the first screen now.
Okay, fine. This is the powerful mantra just we have gone through. I think meaning everybody knows it, and we should practice not today, each and every day. Fine. Then briefly, before going to the journey of a medical student and doctor, I would like to tell about something about myself, because I myself a doctor and I have gone through all the stages which you are rightly going through. I was born and brought up in a small village in Andhra Orissa border, and honestly, I don't have any formal education. Though my father was a not even a matriculate, but he used to teach all of us from class 1 to 6. Class 7 being the board exams. So I have joined the regular school from class 7 onwards. I was the school topper. So after that, it's high school from class 8 to 10. It was nearby high school, which I used to go by cycle all the 3 years, around 5 kilometers. And I was class second in the high school in class 10. Then I moved to topmost college in Orissa. Because I am a native of Orissa, I had to shift to Orissa for professional studies. So I moved to Orissa and completed my plus 2 from BJB College, Bhubaneswar. That is the topmost college in Orissa. Then, hello?
Yes, doctor, we can hear you.
Yeah, I am not able to see my video. Are you able to see my video?
No, I can see your screen, doctor. You're on the
That's
second.
only, na?
Yes, yes.
Fine. Then, after completing my plus 2 from BJB College, Bhubaneswar, then I joined BSc in Government College, Raulkela, Orissa, and I was preparing for my medical entrance. And at last, I make into MBBS. That is way back in 1994, and joined. At that time, it was VSS, Veer Surendra Sai Medical College, Burla, Sambalpur. Now it is Veer Surendra Sai Institute of Medical Sciences and Research Center and Autonomous University. Then after completing my MBBS, I moved to Delhi. I was working in as a junior resident and followed by senior resident. Then I got the opportunity to do 3 months fellowship course in industrial health, that is AFIH, from the one of the topmost medical college, that is Maulana Azad Medical College, New Delhi. Then I joined DNB, General Surgery, Northern Railway Central Hospital, New Delhi. After completing on DNB, I came back to Hyderabad and was practicing as a general surgeon. Then I had a small fellowship course in minimal invasive proctology from the Center of Excellence for Minimal Access Advanced Surgical Training, that is CMAST, from Mumbai. Then I completed fellowship in minimal access surgery from College of Amasi, and this picture is the convocation from SGPGA, that is Sanjay Gandhi Postgraduate Institute of Medical Sciences, Lucknow, in way back in 2018. Then I did my diploma in minimal access surgery from a specialist in lap hernia from the same college of Amasi. Then recently I completed executive MBA from IIM Bangalore, that is General Management Program for Healthcare Executives, IIM Bangalore. And this is the convocation snap of that program. Then I am doing hospital and healthcare administration from ICPI University. 3 semesters out of 4 have been completed. So the important part is medical journey. From student to doctor, what to expect on the medical journey. You see, before entering, we really don't know. Many of us don't know. We have all of us heard about the greener side of the medical studies. We never know what are the difficulties, what are the problems we face as a medical student, later on as a doctor. So, though initially it seems like a dark, that's why where I said it, medical journey from dark, then we slowly move into brighter side. So, how many of you actually boarded the flight before joining MBBS? Any idea? Anybody who joined before joining MBBS boarded the flight?
You all can respond on the chat box, scholars. Yeah, they're all saying no. Most of them are saying no.
Fine. So even I never boarded any flight before MBBS. Even after MBBS only, I was working in UP when my father had an heart attack. Then I had to fly from Delhi to Bhubaneswar flight way back in 2004. So let's have a journey. Let's have a journey of this webinar, and also as a doctor, student, and doctor. Let's go through the flight journey, how it seems. So welcome to Air Medicine. It's going to be a long and turbulent ride. So strap in. So all of us must switch off our cell phones because it's not allowed in a flight journey. And also we have to cut off from other communication, from our friends, family, not only during the journey, but also during the medical carrier as such. So you will not be able to give time as we were able to give time before joining medical carrier. And also we have to compromise many of our festivals. There is no permission to celebrate festivals like an ordinary common man like Diwali, Dasara, Christmas, Holi, and Ranjan. And we cannot think of because medical studies and also as a doctor, emergencies come anytime. Very less leaves during MBBS and mainly during PG. So festivals very minimal. We have to compromise on that. During this journey, we are allowed to take extra baggage. Usually, normally they don't allow more than 10 to 15 kgs in flight. But during our medical journey, we have to take the load of another extra 5 to 10 kg of medical books like instruments, stethoscope, knee hammer, BP instrument, torchlight, measuring tape, so on and so forth. And we have to wear white coat that is apron all the time till the seatbelt sign is off. Since it is a long journey, when you go abroad, long journey, flight cross 12 hours, so there is a jet lag and time lag. So you maybe get disoriented and develop disoriented to days, hours, and especially when you are preparing for the NEET PG. Some of you may be in the final year or during internship where you are supposed to prepare for PG. In that time, you really don't know when the days are going on, where the time is going on. So there will be a lot of disorientation. So excess of coffee will be provided on the flight. Yeah, many of us think that we have struggled so much to complete our MBBS, right? So what next? We don't know. Some of us may going to allied medical sciences, even some of us going to administration, some of us going to management, even some of us going to try other allied careers. So there is a chance after MBBS you can switch off to other careers provided you don't want to complete further specialization and super specialization in the same medical field. So there is a chance to exit from the journey. There is a chance to open your emergency door and get off medical career after MBBS. But being a graduate, since this is a graduate, though it's 5 years, other graduates are only 3 years, you have to complete the at least graduation so that you can explore other options also. Before entering medical at that time, because I was in 90s when I entered into medical studies, most of the society, mainly in village, they say medical is a noble profession, very lucrative. You will land up in Switzerland, that kind of life you will enjoy. But only after you get into medical science, then only you know that it's a long career, at least 12 to 15 years to complete MBBS, followed by specialization like MD or MS, then super specialization like DM or MCH. Overall, this journey will take at least 12 to 15 years. So before the trip, you might have told that you will land in Switzerland, but believe me, you are not going to land in any Switzerland, right? So to combat this journey, to face all these difficulties, you must possess some skills. You must have some martial arts, some communication skills, some strategy skills to defend yourself. and also for the smooth functioning of your career in the medical profession. So passengers like us, medical passengers, medical students, medical doctors, all are expected to develop those skills to tolerate people while treating, while conversing, because many of the patients will come with pre-notioned opinion from Google and other references. You have to be well equipped with all the skills to deal with all of them. The decision of to become a doctor and get into medical field is completely ours and our parents. So now we don't have any choice. You already entered into the medical field. Now you don't have any choice. At least for next 5 years till you complete your degree. Yes, if you wanted, you could have taken the flight to IIT, and by doing so, probably you might have landed in the wonderland of Switzerland. But right now, since you are already into medical field, at least let us complete this journey of at least 5 to 6 years of MBBS. Yes, we have discussed till now all the difficulties, struggles of a medical student and doctor, but there is a hope, spirit of service to humanity that will give the ultimate satisfaction of any life on this earth. So a final reminder that the emergency exit will be there during before PG. But if you want to continue, you still have the choice to go for NEET PG and complete your specialization and super specialization. If you don't want to go on the long journey, because right now you are going to complete 5 to 6 years. You have to go through another 10 years of journey, right? So we don't know. So somebody maybe in the mid of their career, they don't want to continue the next 10 years of medical studies and career. They have the choice to exit from the MBBS and try for other options. Hope this journey is a meaningful one. Despite all the difficulties we face during and after medical career, believe me, friends, there is a meaningful one, that being satisfaction of helping to make a difference in people's lives. Whilst you see the smile on the face of the patients and the attendant, that satisfaction is immense, and that will give motivation to proceed further on this journey. So thank you. You all are heroes. Believe me, the person who get into medical field and going through that and became a doctor, just by doing so, they all became heroes. So I thank you one and all to fly on this journey of air medicine. And of course, there is a long journey ahead. But believe me, any journey can be pleasant only with the help of our co-passengers. Let's all be friends, sharing knowledge and experience with each other so that we can learn from one and all. And we are ready to take the long journey ahead before and after any connecting flight to NEET PG. So the question comes, what next after MBBS? So despite of all the struggles, we became a doctor. Now in a metro like Hyderabad, right now I am in Hyderabad, I am very pained to see MBBS doctors are being paid a mere 20,000 as a DMO, 25,000, 30,000. Even normal graduates getting much more salary than that. So is it worth to continue this journey further, or I have to switch my career? So there are a lot of options for all of the MBBS graduates. So let's have a look from one by one. So the first and best option will be a NEET PG, where you will be eligible to get into post-graduation, that is MD, MS or diploma, and combine NEET and PGMR, JIPR, AIMS have individual entrances also. Probably they have combined everything now. So MD, MS is a 3-year degree course, and if not, diploma is a 2-year program. And if you want to try other courses abroad, mainly USA, you have to appear for USMLE, UK, PLAB, and Australian Medical Council test for Australia. So what to choose? There are so many options in post-graduation. So what to choose? There is a medical student. Suppose somebody is very crazy. So to go for it. So, and he has very good amount of attention span, then he can go for psychiatry. And if the attention span is very less, he can go into emergency medicine where he has to take very quickly. And suppose very sane, hard-working doctor, very much, and he has a very nice attitude, then if he hates adults, he can choose pediatrics, and if he hates children, he can choose medicine. Attitude doesn't matter. Patient is asleep or patient is dead. If patient is asleep, he can choose anesthesia, and the patient is dead, he can choose pathology and also FMT, forensic medicine and toxicology. And very mean attitude, he can go for a surgery, because in surgery, surgical skills are more important. Suppose the doctor is not keen in much of hard work, then, and if somebody is afraid of the light, he can choose radiology, and somebody is afraid of the dark and thinking big, he can choose dermatology, and thinking small, he can ophthalmology. Just in a lighter way, know about this post-graduation subject, because you have to decide after going journey of MBBS, even after internship only, because by that time you have already completed your journey in internship, you have exposed to all the subjects, you know your strengths, you know your life, then only choose your post-graduation. For me, choosing the subject, choosing the branch is more important than the institution, because the institution will be there with you for only 3 years. The subject will be there with you for all the life. So choosing the branch and subject is much more important than the institution. Other funny way of looking about post graduation. Suppose if you love the OR, that is operating room. If you love it, then if you love to talk to patients, then love operating. Take a general surgery like me. I love to talk to patients and I love operating. So I became a general surgeon. Suppose if I don't love to operate, then I will take anesthesia. And if you don't talk to patients much, then you can go for love tiny surgeries like short surgeries like ophthalmology. And if you want big surgeries, if you like brain, you can go for neurosurgery. If you don't like, you can go for ENT. If you love pelvis and babies, you can go for obs-gynae. If you don't love babies, you can go for urology. And if you don't love pelvis, you can go for orthopedics. And suppose if you love talking to patients, no, then love dead things, yes, you can go for pathology. And active diagnosis, you can go for radiology. So if you want to take rounding, then yes, then love psychosis, then you can go for, and love personality disorders, then you can go for psychiatry. And if you don't, physical medicine and rehabilitation. If you love adults, internal medicine, don't love pediatrics. If you love skin, derma, no, then emergency. So this is the funny way of looking about the postgraduate subject, because that is the most important. Because even I have seen many of my seniors, some of my seniors first completed PG in gynec, followed by another PG in skin. So the thing is that the choosing the subject is more important. So if you, what next? If you are not getting MD or MS, you can go for DNB. That is also equivalent of MD, MS, except some teaching experience, some medical college don't accept it. And other thing, after MBBS, there is a very lucrative government job sector, that is combined medical services, that is conducted by UPSC. So it's a government jobs in railways, defense, and municipalities and other things. And also you can go for administrative, that is civil services also after graduation. But getting into civil service to medical subjects is very tough. So you have to choose the allied subjects like sociology, anthropology, like. And other options are even some of the allied institute like AIIMS giving Master of Science in some medicines in anatomy, aerospace medicine, anesthesia. But it's not an MD course. It's just giving Master of Science of 2 years. There also some of them eligible to become faculty and some are practicing. So the options are many. Even if you don't get into PG and you don't want to go through a long career, to divert your career into teaching or research, you have to go through the MSc also. And recently MBA, many doctors like me, now I am at this stage of exploring management options. So many private hospitals are coming, many pharmaceutical companies are coming where they need medical expertise along with management experience. And even some of the management institutions observing doctors as their faculty because their management programs involve healthcare. So they need also as a faculty, and very renowned institute like IIM Bangalore, IIM Ahmedabad. From IIM Bangalore, I have done my executive MBA. Then Faculty of Management Studies, Delhi, Indian School of Business, Hyderabad, then XLRM, Jamshedpur. Like many are giving very renowned MBA. Then very clinical research, very lucrative, directly not into practice, but dealing with some patients into clinical research. Though in India it is not that much developed, but it's still growing. We have a lot of growth in India and it's still developing. Indian Council of Medical Research, Center for Cellular and Molecular Biology, and St. John's Research Institute. And also one can join WHO, many institutes like AIMS, PGI, NIMHANS, Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, Mumbai, also offering PhD in clinical research. Then Masters in Health Administration. Ultimately, you need some managers to manage the doctors also. To manage the doctors, to manage the hospitals, you need some administrators. So now Masters in Health Administration, as a PG also, there is a PG course, 3 years PG course also, there 2 years course, even 1 year's course, many kinds of courses are there in healthcare administration. Because in private sector, administration is, they give much importance to administration because they only extract the business from the doctor. And as the technology is growing day by day, so MTech in biomedical engineering and biological sciences, so many advanced instruments, so many artificial intelligence, robotics, diagnostics, so many health related medical device, so are there. So you can get into biomedical engineering also, and some of the IITs are also giving. So that is Masters in Medical Science and Technology given by IIT Kharagpur. So it's not that after MBBS either you become a doctor, because you are still a graduate. Now you decide to further your journey into core medical science or allied medical science. You have the option. And the last but not the least, public health. Believe us, friends, public health is the most important thing in healthcare sector. But in India, it is the most neglected one. In Western countries, they give much importance to public health because public health is the prevention. What we are doing in the treatment cost is very high. So we have to get into the root cause of the problems where we can able to prevent the disease. So it's also coming up. And a lot of future in public health. So we have gone through the journey of a doctor, MBBS student. Then we now know what are the options we have after MBBS. Of course, the best option is to become a doctor and get into PG. If not, we have other options. Now the important part and the last, we have a very lucrative, in the sense, very satisfied rural health services. That is primary health center. Lot of work to do. But because lack of facilities in rural setup, many doctors are not going to, because you need some facilities for your kids' school, to stay, to enjoy. These facilities are yet to develop in a rural background. So many doctors are not going, but things are catching up, like the salaries being increased, who is going into rural sector, like National Rural Health Mission. For that, many districts have very, very good salaries compared to private sector. So these are all the options available for any undergraduate medical student after becoming an MBBS. Now what? All we have gone through the difficulties, we have know the career options. Now what? Now ultimately we choose this profession to become a good doctor, right? Not to become any management professional, anything else. We have the options, but somebody who might want to just to remain in this profession and want to be a good doctor. What are the top 11 qualities of a good doctor? So, and why they are and why they are necessary to know. Because these qualities actually, it has to be part of an undergraduate curriculum. Believe me, friends, I never learned during my MBBS career. So I face a lot of difficulty. It's high time we get into these qualities and practice from the day one, the moment you get into medical college. So, excellent communication skills. It's what do you mean by communication skills? It's not just about talking. You have to talk, and the other person has to listen. Other person has to understand. Other person has to respond, and you have to get back the feedback or reply. So there are around 5 stages of effective communication. It's not only about imparting information, it's also about extracting information from the patient. So Sir William Osler rightly said, listen to the patient. He's telling you the diagnosis. So don't interfere while the patient is talking, at least for initial 5 minutes. Let him talk freely. Let him or her talk freely. So there are some clues he will give, because he or she doesn't know what to speak, what not to speak. But if you interrupt the flow in between, he or she, the patient will lose the flow. So at least for initial few minutes, just listen, then you guide. You then guide to extract the proper history, in what direction, what are the leading questions, non-leading questions, open questions. So first initial few minutes give the patient and listen properly. So history from patients contributes around 60 to 80% for diagnosis. Then we can really avoid many costly investigations. That is what the skill. That's what we are learning for all the 6 years doing MBBS, another 3 years doing PG. And if you go straight away for diagnosis without taking proper history and examination, I don't think we are doing any justice to our studies, our knowledge, and our profession. So, excellent communication skills, very important. Second, teamwork. You see, you are just part of a team who treats the patient. You are just a prescription or doing a surgery. So the team, the moment the patient enters into a hospital, so his or her treatment starts. So from front office, OPD, yourself, then going to ward, diagnostics, everything. So you cannot do everything alone. Even if you do a good prescription, even if you do a good operation, if your team members are not good enough, ultimately the patient will suffer. Your name will be also bad. So you have to gel with your team. You have to motivate your team. You have to work together with the team. And the most important, strong work ethic. Strong work ethic is most important. The moment patient comes to you, there is a unwritten contract already signed. You need not to sign a contract, because patient already submitted to you for his agony, for his problems, for his disease, whatever. So already a contract has been signed between patient and you. So now you have to dedicate your time, knowledge, everything for the sake of the patient. So we have to prioritize work over play. So that's why medical profession needs dedication, sacrifice, morality, principle, ethics. So strong work ethic is much important. And utmost but not the least, compassion. They are the patients later on, but they are the human beings first, right? They are human beings like all of us. They have the dignity, they have the respect, and they have their emotions. We have to respect them as an individuals. We don't see them as a patient. So compassion, dignity, and respect in health is at most important. How much you can do for your patient. So that is most important. And not only you have to work with your medical team, you have to work with your general public, patients attendants, other allied professionals, non-medical personnel. So you must have excellent people skills also, not only team skills, you must have also people skills also. Then leadership. Ultimately, there are only 20% of the time patient is spent with the doctor. Rest 80% are other people. But ultimately, you are the captain of the ship. You are the leader of the patient. So you must have a leadership quality. You must have that leadership material. How well you can lead your team. So responsibility as a doctor, as the head of the captain. So you have the responsibility of coaching your staff, facilitating the treatment, handling other disciplinary problems, reviewing the team and their training, and also communication. So you have to be a coach, you have to be a liaison with external constituencies, you have to be a conflict manager, you have to be a troubleshooter. So there are many. So you must have patience to share the information with the patient and also with your team. You have to trust others because you can't do everything because you prescribe. But ultimately, the nurse has to administer the drug, the injection, what you have prescribed. You have to trust them, train them, and you have to give authority to your subordinates. Many of our senior doctors not giving that independence to our junior doctors, which I have gone through. So you have to train them, you have to trust them, you have to empower them, you have to give authority so that they will learn and excel. And also understand when to not intervene. And there will be a difficult balance. You cannot do everything for them, and also at the same time, you cannot control everything on your own. So there must be a balancing act. So when to intervene, when to not to intervene. The most important is organization skill because it's a very stressful profession, friends. Very stressful studies. After that is no relief. You have to work like anything during PG. I worked continuously for 24 plus another 12, 36 hours continuous in the hospital. I think most of us here, most of you all only MBBS graduates, so you don't know the difficulties of a PG student. Many of PG graduates, they stay in the hospital continuously for 36 hours. So you must have some fantastic organization skills. You have to prioritize your work, what to do, what not to do. You have to arrange things at home. You have to arrange things at hostel. You have to arrange things in hospital because you are constantly exposed to lot of work, lot of stress, lot of information. You have to process it and also direct your knowledge or skills to the attention where it is required. Being academically excellent. This is very important. You see, medical science is changing every day, every month, every year. What I have learned in MBBS probably not relevant today. Some basics are there, but the advance is so fast and so rapid. You have to be relevant to the current situation because it is rapidly changing. So do you have the ability to learn and understand the information you will need? Yes, we don't have any choice. If you are in the medical profession, you don't have any choice. You have to learn each and everything. That's why there is no choice in MBBS question paper. You have to answer each and every question. In our class 10 or class 12, we have a question answer 5 out of 10, 2 out of 5 in medical science because you can't say I can treat this patient. I cannot treat this patient. I can treat this disease. I can't treat this. You have to study each and everything. So you have to be a continuous learner, lifelong learner. Once you stop learning, you start dying, as rightly said by great scientist Albert Einstein. The important point is ultimately you have to serve. There is no option. You have to study, you have to work, you have to serve the patient. But at the same time, you have to take care of yourself. Lot of stress during MBBS, even after MBBS during PG, and even after PG during your practice. So stress management is very important. So how to deal with them? Reality of the job are there. We can't avoid them. But how we must learn how to cope with them. There are a lot of stress factors like long working hours, emotionally stress, no work-family balance. You have to do multitask at the same time, high responsibility. You have to take critical decisions as per as patient treatment is concerned. Very poor social life. You don't get time to meet your relatives and friends. Fear of failure, fear of treatment of failure, fear of failure of surgery, increasing competition like increasing, like earlier the medical is like medical service is like a service. Now it's like a consumers. We are also came under Consumers Protection Act. You will face a lot of difficult patients, very demanding, very aggressive. Even sometimes they may physically torture, physically assault you, and this corporate life, even in residency in government hospitals, workaholics are admitted. The person who is working hard, he's a good student. Who is not working hard is a bad student. But ultimately, you only have to take care of yourself. So always take help from friends, always take help from family. Don't take all the stress on your own. It's very unfortunate to say that many of the suicides are being done in that age group of 15 to 25 or 30 years. Why? Career pressure, study pressure, lot of stress, and they don't have anybody to speak their problems, to share their agony, to share their pain with others. So always maintain very good friends, close friends, either in your medical career, even outside. You must maintain close relatives, close friends where you can share. So at the same time, you must learn the skills even during profession how to manage. So where to intervene, like where to take the help of your seniors, where to delegate the job to juniors, where to take the help of your paramedical staff, nursing staff. So how to divide the work and always allow some time for yourself and also something active for yourself. Do something physical, something mental, something relaxation for your work for to maintain a balance. So honestly, once you get into medical field, you are good enough to do anything in this world, but you can't do everything on your own. So never be afraid to ask for help. So professionalism. Medical profession is one of the most demanding, most demanding. So you have to maintain utmost professionalism. Are you polite, punctual, and proficient? So it's a in the new millennium, the physician charter is already a contract. It's a medicine's contract with the society. That's what I told. The moment patient enters to you, there is a there is an unwritten contract, and you have to always take care of the welfare of the patient. You have to maintain the confidentiality of the patient. You have to maintain appropriate relations with the patient. And a lighter note, most of here the undergraduate medical students, I see in the chart box from first year to final year. So never make any girlfriends or boyfriends with the patients or their relatives. So that is what the professionalism is, and also your commitment to your responsibility because you are the highly responsible individual. At the end, but not the least, ultimately, why you want to become a doctor? You have to ask yourself, what drives to become a doctor? Is it a livelihood? Is it a job? Or is it a passion for service? So you must have that passion to want to be a doctor. Otherwise, if you are into medical profession just for money, if you are just for any job or just for career, I think you are bound to face problems. That passion will only drive you, and to face all the difficulties in life, in during and after the medical career. So wherever the art of medicine is loved, there is also a love for humanity. So that passion for service, that love for humanity must be there. Is it worth the cost? Of course. Of course, become a doctor without any compromising your noble nature of a soul. There is a worth of investing the cost to become a doctor. And honestly, medicine is only for those who cannot imagine doing anything else. Rightly said by Dr. Lunda Diagete. Of course, it is very harsh, but at the same time, if you can do anything else, why you want to become a doctor? If you have become a doctor, you have to compromise something. You must have that passion to serve the humanity. Then only the journey will be smooth. In modern medicine, there are 4 phases of modern medicine. There are 4. First one, you always try to give some benefit to the patient. That is A, intentional benefit. But during the course, you also give some unintentional benefit. So first you are okay for the patient and society, they accept it. But what happens when we try for intentional benefit? Unfortunately, we end up in that is column C, that is unintentional harm. Sometimes we do cause some we don't know it is happening, but at the sometimes some of our colleagues are doing intentional harm also. But society can never differentiate unintentional harm and intentional harm. Whether you done a mistake knowingly or unknowingly, ultimately court, society will blame you that you have done intentional harm only. So while trying to give both A and B, sometimes you end up in C and D. So quantum of unintentional harm has far exceeded at the intentional harm. But what happens that unintentional harm also being calculated in as a intentional harm. That's why so much of consumer protection cases, so much of medical legal cases are coming. You don't want to harm any patient intentionally, but though it is unintentionally done, it will come as a intentional. So we have to be very vigilant, very careful to protect ourselves first. If we protect ourselves only, then only we can treat others. So that's why medical ethics, values in medical ethics. Medical ethics has 6 pillars. 6 pillars. You can see correctly here. Autonomy, beneficency, non-maleficency, justice, dignity, and honesty. So 6 of the values that are which commonly apply to medical profession, that is autonomy. That is voluntas aegroti suprema lex. The patient has the right to refuse or choose their treatment. They can refuse, they can choose their treatment, they can choose their doctor. That is the autonomy to the patient. And beneficence. Salus aegroti suprema lex. A practitioner should act in the best interest of the patient. Always patient first. Then non-maleficence. Primum non nocere. First do no harm. Then only think of doing any benefit. Justice, fairness, and equality. So you have to, we have very limited resources in India. So you have to do the justice to the patients as per their needs, and dignity of the patient should be respected. And always there should be truthful and honesty in your treatment. So responsibility, the prime thing for good doctors, understanding responsibility better than privilege, and practice accountability better than business. Believe me, friends, good practice will give you good business. It will take time, but if you are honest, doing good business, good practice, it will give you good business. Don't worry, forget about money. Do good service, it will give you good business. So we have a very bigger responsibility of protecting human health. So like environment health, health and human rights, peace and security of the patient and the society. We have being a doctor, not only we have to treat the patient, we have a bigger responsibility of human health and as a protecting the society. So important thing is never stop questioning. The most important for any life is to ask questions. First to ask yourself why I want to become a doctor, what is the way forward, and what questions. There are 6 mainly important benefits that through questions only we can learn through life. The more questions we ask, the better answers we get. Quality of our life depends on questions we ask. Questions makes you open, questions make you wiser, and the right questions even gives you happiness. Believe me, even if you don't get the right answer, the moment you ask the right question, you feel thrilled. The endorphin levels in you will increase. So friends, there is a sky. This forum is open for questions. Why questions are more important than the answers? I may not have given you all the answers you need, but believe me, friends, you have all the questions to ask. Questions seek, frame, and expose, while answers only temporary responses. Question is the art of learning. The more you ask, the more you will learn. I may not give you the right answer right time, but believe me, the moment you ask a question, it helps you to think. Even if I'm not able to give the right answer, you will find the right answer. So this now I encourage the student, whatever the questions they have, let's act, interact, and let's learn from each other. This is my profile. You can directly reach me anytime through mobile, email, LinkedIn, Facebook, and everything. Thank you for your patient hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Devaraj Reddy. That was really a wonderful session, I must say. And I'm sure all the scholars here are very enlightened, with various career options available that you spoke about in your initial slides. Till the importance of soft skills in this field, right? That's one thing I think we all ignore quite a bit. Maybe in the medical field, we're so much, the focus is so much on academics that I think soft skills takes a back seat. And I'm so glad you spoke about it in this session because that's equally important. So thank you very much. I would just like to check if Sudha, are you there? Okay, so maybe Sudha will join us. and she would like to say a few words initially, but we will maybe move on to the Q&A session. And Dr. Devraj, you can stop sharing your screen if you would.
Yeah.
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 So I will just open this out for questions. And we have quite a few questions that have started coming in. So I'll start, putting that out for you. One of them has asked a lot of questions about radiology, and they're asking if this is a good choice. What are the pros and cons of becoming a radiologist? And, also in line with that, how much rank is needed to get into radiology, and why do all the NEET PG toppers go in for radiology? So I think, all of it. Yeah.
Very, very good question, actually. Now, radiology is the number one choice. There are two reasons, right? They're not directly into the patient contact, number one. And now the world is moving towards investigation, because everybody, even patients, demand investigation. Sometimes I don't write investigation, but patients want an authentic report. So what happens, and there is a lot of lucrative business going on through investigations, a lot of diagnostic chains are coming. So and most of the time you don't need to do night duties, right? Emergencies. You just see the report, give the report, go home at 5 o'clock, enjoy the benefits. So that's why even private PG radiology seating being sold at 3 crores, even 5 crores. Yes. But my suggestion for the young lady or young boy is that prepare NEET PG not for this subject. What happened? We don't know the rank. If you're getting a top rank, take radiology. But if you predetermined about the subject now, if you don't get it, you will be disappointed. So go for the rank. Depending on the rank, then you choose your options, where you can go, what options you can take. All are good, provided you like the subject and you excel in that subject. Of course, radiology is very lucrative because of the no night duties, good amount of money. But believe me, you have to study a lot, because a lot you have to study in radiology also. Radiology and pathology, two main subjects, which are a lot of subjects. And they're not in direct contact with the patient, but very demanding and a lot of money. At the same time, that's why the people now, earlier, nobody was taking radiology, nobody was taking pathology. Earlier, the demanding subjects were medicine and surgery. There are two subjects. Now the radiology comes first. But the thing is that don't be predetermined for the subject. Work hard, get the good rank. After the rank, you decide during the counseling what I can. Whatever you get it, enjoy the subject. That's it.
Yeah, I guess that's a very important thing, right? Whatever you get, enjoy the subject. Very true. So moving on, two of them have asked you, what is the basic difference between DNB and MD-MS?
Yeah.
And, what is given priority? Which of them is given more priority work-wise and from the point of view of skills and knowledge?
Yeah. So you see, I have, during my career options, I put MD-MS on the top. I am from DNB background, because DNB came very late. It is initiated by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, by the Government of India, National Board of Examination. So earlier what happened, there are very limited medical colleges. Even now also, very limited medical government colleges followed by private medical colleges. Still, those lot of private medical colleges are coming, still the seats are not enough. But at the same time, the private health sector grown like anything. So a lot of private hospitals are there, where they cannot have MD-MS seats because it's not a medical college, it's a hospital. So what happens, the government introduced this program. In those hospitals, the DNB program came up. So it is a 3-year course, subject-wise. Believe me, DNB students know much more than subject than the MD-MS students. Because MD-MS students, what happens, one of your teacher is your own teacher, your own boss. The exam is on the same hospital. So in DNB, all the examiners come from outside. You go to the outside hospital for the examination. So subject-wise, DNB is good, but career-wise, since MD and MS is going since long, and it is there in medical college and for teaching purpose, MD and MS comes a little higher than the DNB. But if your main focus is to do private practice, doesn't make any difference. Whether you are MD, MS or DNB, doesn't make any difference. If you want to get into academics, MD, MS definitely comes ahead of DNB.
Okay, thank you, doctor. What is the best option after MBBS other than NEET PG?
I
Is
think
there-
what, yeah. Right now, that's why if you want to continue in medical career serving the patient, that is the only option you have to do specialization, right? Earlier, there are different state entrances, different national entrances besides DNB separate. Now, I think they have combined everything into NEET. All the medical colleges and all the hospitals also come under NEET PG. So that's why NEET is first and foremost, and you have to appear, you don't have any other choice. If you want to continue post graduation in medical science only, then you don't have any other option in India right now. You have the options to go abroad. You can give USMLE for USA, PLAB for UK, and AMC for Australia. My suggestion is that because if the money is the issue and service is not, because ultimately you need money to survive, right? And in India right now, though medical care is little exploring, little better day by day, but still then doctors are being treated well abroad. If somebody the money issue, my suggestion will be go abroad for few years, 5 years, 10 years, take a lot of foreign degrees, earn some money, come back, you will be a good consultant, and also you have the bandwidth and security that then you will survive. Then you can do a good practice. That
Okay. One of the other question is about central medical institutes like AIIMS, JIPMER. How good are these institutes?
very good, because they don't not only treat the patient, they do a lot of research, in many medical fields. Definitely, AIMS becomes number one out of government, CMC Vellore, JIPMO. All are good. But that's what my point is that suppose if you don't like the subject, don't choose the institution, because you will there for 3 years, right? But that subject will remain for life. So don't like many people are crazy about brands. Do you know what shirt I am wearing? Doesn't matter, right? I have to wear a shirt. Whether it's Alan Solly or anything, doesn't matter. You want a decent shirt. You must have a degree of your choice. Institute comes later. But if I'm crazy about the institute, then you have to compromise on the subject. So my suggestion will be work hard, doing NEET PG. Don't worry about the institute. Depending on the rank, go it. If you're not getting it, go abroad for 5 years, 10 years, and come back and serve the country.
What is the difference between doing a PG in a government college and a private college, doctor? Is there any difference?
Yeah.
Again, it comes back to the question of not only the institute, the subject you choose, or the institute does matter.
Yeah, government, what happens in government, patient load is little better, number one. Number two, stipend is also little better. Lot of good faculties will be there, experienced faculty. So definitely the knowledge you get, the skills you earn, and the stipend you get better in a government sector. At the same time, you have to be work hard. They make you work like crazy. I told you 36 hours continuously be in the hospital. You have to pay that price for those things. Because ultimately, whatever the skills you get during PG, during MBBS, that will remain throughout the life. After that, getting new skills is difficult, right? You will get into practice, that cycle of business, job, family will come. So whatever learn you can during MBBS and PG. So definitely government is better, but you are ready to work hard. Knowledge, skills, and money is good. Private, what happens? Very less patients, stipend also less at the same time. Ultimately, medical profession, you have to learn from the patients, not from the books. That's the most important thing.
Right. Why are medicos not encouraged in politics? A very different question. Do you have a say in, I mean, what is your opinion? After all, the nation is in their hands. So one of them asked, why do you think that medicos are not encouraged in politics?
Madam, you see, nobody will encourage you to come into politics, right? Because it is their field. Some people already into there. They don't never encourage others to come because their fate will be in question. Yes, some of the doctors becoming member of parliaments, even becoming in ministers also. But the thing is that why the question is because doctors spend a lot of time to become doctors, like 15 years, right? After that, you don't have that much of money to contest elections, number one. Number two, there is no guarantee that you will win. Number three, during the course, you may lose your practice.
Right.
But believe me, some of doctors are coming slowly. One of my class 10th batchmate, my classmate, is a leading practitioner at Srikakulam. Now he's entering into parliament election next session. So coming, but this is tough for any middle class family. It's tough if you have money, and I think you have to come. Nobody will encourage. You have to decide what kind of life you want. And
Yeah.
my personal opinion is that never get into politics for to survive. Get into politics for serve. If you want to survive, you can survive as a doctor, right? Why you need as a politician? If you want to do something bigger, then become a politician.
Okay, that is interesting. That's very interesting to hear, Doctor. So one of them is asking, is there a way to remove medical services from Consumer Act? What is your opinion about inclusion of medical services in the Consumer Act?
I think some of the act in the government is not in favor of removing in toto, but some of the clauses I think being removed and still under review. But you see, as a society, as a politician, they're always against the doctors. They always target the doctors to get their mileage. So never, it's better because when you are in consumers, you are paying everything on market rate, and you have to pay the price. Suppose something goes wrong, at the same time you cannot charge patient as you wish, right? So it's very tough situation. Then it should be a well-paid profession, which is not in India. But at the same time, many medical consumers cases you have to pay a lot, but you are not able to charge that patient that much. These charges are being most of the charges being fixed by the government. So it's in government hands. For that, we need lot of doctors get into politics and get into parliament to change the laws.
Okay. How I want to work as a government doctor, one of the scholars say. How does he go about doing this? How to go about proceed with this?
Yeah. Immediately after MBBS, I think whichever state you belong, they conduct this like UPSC, the State Public Service Commission will be there. They conduct your interview or entrance, whatever. But I think you have to be prepared to serve in rural sector for a while, because since rural sector, a lot of doctors are not going. So initial posting will be a rural sector. If you have an influence, you can get into a urban sector. But if you really want to serve the people, I think rural sector is the best place to work in. You have a peaceful life. Of course, you have to sacrifice some of the luxuries for yourself and your family. But believe me, after struggling in metro like Hyderabad for years, even I am thinking going back to my village and to serve it. Because you see, expenses will be less, stress will be less, and probably you will earn more than the government like urban sector. But having a government job, and the important question I will add here, immediately after joining completion of MBBS government sector, I think you will give some preference for PG to get PG compared to other candidates who have not joined government sector. So in that case, having a 3 years of experience in a government sector and having some money and getting to PG through government quota will be a nice idea.
Okay. Which subject is of greatest demand in PG, doctor? And maybe somebody just wants to know about neurosurgeon being an option and about psychology also.
Yeah. So I think we already discussed radiology are going number top most. That's why if you don't want emergencies, and believe me, psychiatry has a lot of demand, and India has very less psychiatrists. Even India has very less ophthalmologists. So, but psychiatry, that's what your bandwidth is to talk to people, have a lot of patients, because the psychiatry patient will come, he will speak, and he will scold you, anything. You have to listen, then only come to a conclusion and give some medication. So if you have that kind of personality, psychiatry is the very best, because lot of scope, no emergencies, and neurosurgeries. Because lot of accidents, lot of trauma, lot of brain tumors are coming, very demanding. But at the same time, you have to prepare to go through that long journey. MBBS 5 to 6 years, MS or DNB another 3 years, neurosurgery another 3 years, Then you have to work under a surgeon who can teach you the skills, another 3 to 5 years, long journey. But it's a very good demanding, very good scope. But being a surgeon, you have to be prepared to enter into emergencies anytime. That's
Okay. So one of them is asking you, doctor, that why did you want to become a doctor? What was your motivation to become a doctor?
Okay. Very tough question. And honestly, I was very good at mathematics. I personally wanted to get into either engineering or administrative service. I'm the eldest from my family. I told you my father he will not matriculate, but I am a surgeon and my two of my brothers are engineers. You can understand how much vision, how much work hard you might have. He told me one thing. One of my children has to become a doctor, and I have the utmost faith on you. If you can't become a doctor, I don't have that faith anybody can become a doctor. So that is one thing. Second thing, that I am a person of service. I want to serve. Of course, somebody who want to serve, he has to suffer also. That is comes with the package. So somehow I became a surgeon. I am a doctor, surgeon. That's why probably I am struggling because it has to come from within. Somebody has to force you. My suggestion will be, if you don't want to become a doctor, somebody is forcing you, never become a doctor. I'm not saying that my father forced me. At that time, I don't know the difficulties, but my motto was serve. So probably I thought that medical profession is the best way to serve the community. I became a doctor. That's why I want to even explore the larger possibility to serve the larger community. That's why I'm coming into medical administration also.
Okay. And can you just give a brief about the management option MBA after MBBS, like what you did with at IIM?
Yeah. So the best thing after MBA, we have that same PG program, that is like PG post graduation, masters in hospital administration. Even AIMS have, PG AIMS have, NIMS at Hyderabad have very good institute, masters of hospital administration, and Tata Institute of Social Sciences have. That is the best options rather than going to this lucrative IM, because IM charge you a lot of money. So that if you really want to get away from clinical practice, directly in patient touch, get into management immediately after MBBS. Don't waste time like me that I did PG in surgery, then lab fellowship and practicing for surgery in 10 to 15 years, then going to better because you lose lot of time. So if you're really best option will be masters in hospital administration and MBA like good institutes like Symbiosis, IMS, ISB, lot of options, lot of.
Okay. What about the USMLE, right, doctor? So they should have a research paper to start it. How do they go about it? And
Not exactly. They have three stages of USMLE. USMLE 1 and USMLE 2 and USMLE 3. You have to go in USA and give those exam. The thing is that little costly. Suppose for USMLE, you have to spend around 5 lakhs for exams total. And there is no guarantee after that you will get visa. That is the main question, at least during our times. So, but the scope is good, pay is good, and you have the luxury of visiting another country and good developed country. But thing is that you have to take that chance of spending around 5 to 10 lakhs and take that risk of not getting also. Even after spending that much, even after clearing all the exams, there is no guarantee that you will be getting that PGC. But the demand for Indian doctors is always there in USA, UK. They are preferred, no doubt about it. But you have to take that risk. If you have the money, prepare it.
Okay, I think yes, that's important. What is the scope of pediatrics in India and abroad? Is it a good choice of? Is it a good career choice?
Very good choice. Why I tell you? Child cries, mother will come. My child is crying. Child doesn't cry, mother will come. My child is not crying. So, and simple fever, simple cold, they will come. Pediatrics always demand, always demand. And if you like children to play with them, you have a lot of patience and the best choice. Best choice. At the same time, that's the same thing. You have to ready to sacrifice that you have to attend emergencies, you have to attend deliveries because baby can be delivered at any time in the middle of the night. So then they will call a pediatrician. So believe me, it has good demand both in rural sector, urban sector. Doctors are always in demand in abroad. Forget about abroad, except those clearing those exams and ready to go abroad. Doctors are well paid, well in demand in abroad. So abroad options are very good. Pediatrics is a very good branch.
Okay. How important is attending wards during undergraduate? Though many students ignore it, is it very important to
Very,
attend?
very important question. But people think that they will avoid wards during BBS and during internship, and they will directly prepare for PG, NEET and all. But believe me, I told you, medical science, you have to learn from the patient. You can never learn from the books. You have to always learn from the patient. If you are attending wards, whatever case you have seen, and at the same time, if you can able to read that chapter in the ward itself, your remembrance is very good. Your knowledge is very good. And I can give one example during our MBBS, one of our 2 years senior to us, she's a girl. She spends all the time in the wards throughout her internship. Other candidates they study in the library, but she was the topper. She got a good rank in All India PG at that time. Some I think 55 rank something. But she spent all the time in the wards because what the advantage? Whatever she sees in the wards, she studies immediately. She remembers it. But because once you study from the book, you can't remember everything. But once you study the patient and see the patient, discuss, study, you will remember it. So it will help you in your practice and also in your NEET PG. Ward rounds are must.
Practical knowledge.
Yeah.
Okay. Pursuing MBBS from medical college is lacking clinical practices. So what should we do after MBBS or during so that we don't face any problem after it?
Yeah. So that's what. Because of the lot of medical colleges, private medical colleges coming where no patient, the practical skills are very less. But government medical college, I think it's good exposure. After that, suppose you are a medical college where you are doing MBBS, you are not having enough medical pay. You can choose to do an internship from any government institute. Nobody can prevent that. Suppose in Hyderabad, for giving example, somebody is doing MBBS from Bhaskar Medical College or some NMR Medical College. They can choose to do internship from Osmania or Gandhi. So what happens? You will get a lot of patient exposure and skills. And that is the only way. Or else, after MBBS, you can join as a junior resident in any medical college where you will get a lot of exposure in a particular subject where you are joining in that subject. And also, you can join as a medical officer in government setup, as a duty doctor in a private setup. Options are many, but you have to decide whether you want exposure, you want PG.
Okay. And how to join as, assistant professor in a medical college after completing PG course? Is that advisable also, or is there any counseling which is required to become a professor?
Yeah. So the main basic eligibility criteria is PG with the 1 year senior residency in a teaching institute. I think they have kept it mandatory. If your appetite, if your long-term goals is to become a professor and to teach, I think that's the best option because you don't have any pressure from the corporate of getting the patients or getting the revenue. At the same time, you are doing some research, you are teaching the students. Well, you see, teaching is something you have to be again passionate. Doctor can be a practitioner, doctor can be a teacher. So if your skills, knowledge, and you are passionate about teaching, I think becoming an assistant professor, then associate, then professor is the best thing. That after PG, I think just you have to complete 1 year of residency, senior residency in the particular subject, then you are eligible.
Okay. They want to just know some, one of the scholars wants to know about cardiovascular thoracic surgery. Is it an interest? Is it a good option?
Yeah. You see, India is the capital of diabetes and also at the coronary heart diseases. Our genetic population were more prone for diabetes and also heart disease. Always in demand. But again, the same thing. 15 years of study, cardiac surgery, 5 to 6 years MBBS, 3 years MS, another 3 years MCH cardiovascular surgery. Then another around 3 to 5 years of experience working in a good cardiac unit to get the exposure. Then you be prepared to work on long hours, because some cardiac surgeries take 5 hours, 6 hours, even cardiac transplants, many things. Very good, very sophisticated branch. At the same time, you have to be prepared to work hard. After surgery also, you have to stay with the patient for overnight, because once you operated, you cannot give that responsibility to somebody, you are junior, and you can go and have a nice sleep because the problem may come at any time. So tough journey, but definitely satisfying.
Okay. So just the last two questions, as we're already overshooting time. One is about joining the Indian medical services. Okay, can we continue our practices after getting into Indian medical services in administrative field? And also about wishing to be a part of the as a military physician. You know? Yeah. So these two options.
Yeah. Indian medical service, that is combined medical services conducted by UPSC, very good option for a government doctor. If you are into management, you see, if the government paying you non-NPA, non-practicing allowance in your salary structure, you are not allowed to practice. If the government is not paying you NPA, that is non-practicing allowance, you are free to practice, because it's the contract between you and the your employer. It may be government or maybe private. You have a medical degree, you have a registration with the medical degree, you have a registration number, nobody bar you to prevent practice. But if your employer has a contract with you and they are paying not to practice outside, then you can't practice. And getting into army, I think it's very easy. They conduct every 6 months, once in a 6 months after MBBS, they conduct an interview, and you can go, you can choose Navy, airports, and also very good. Believe me, the salary is good, the discipline is good, and after 5 years you can come out also. If you choose, you can remain for long term also, and you have a lot of benefits from army, and also satisfying in being part of army and serving the nation.
Okay. Last two questions, Doctor. One is about, is language a barrier in the medical field? So, you know, a North Indian moving to the South or doing his or her PG in the South, language difficulty, or vice versa, you know, a South Indian pursuing their PG or medical degree in the North and communicating with the patients. So, you know, how important is language?
Very, very important. You see, most of the North Indians know Hindi. Some of the South Indian states don't know Hindi. Mainly patients. I'm talking about patients. So South Indian moving towards North India, I don't think that much a problem. Any medical graduate know English or Hindi, he will manage. He or she can manage. Any North Indian candidate coming to South India where Hindi is not spoken, like the Tamil Nadu, where most of the patients don't speak. Yeah, initially there is some barrier. But some of your friend or colleague who just besides you now during the undergraduate or PG, he or she will be knowing that local language. And moreover, medical career is a long time, so if MBBS, PG, 3 years. By the time you will learn the language. And it's like, it's a connection between the patient and you. You understand the emotions, you understand the expressions, you will examine the patient, you will learn it. You may not be learning, understanding exact words, but you know the concept, you got the information. Initially, 6 months will be tough, but after that you will manage.
Yeah, I'm sure adaptability is also an important factor for medical students, right? So thank you. And one last question, Doctor. How can we spend our holidays and leisure time to excel in our career apart from doing academic studies?
Yeah, that's very important. Everybody needs holidays. Doctors also, human beings, they have all the rights and to spend their time in whatever way they can. But unfortunately, it's not happening in India. But what I will suggest, holiday, the question is, you want to get the leisure time along with advancing your career. You have to decide whether it's just a break from your career, or at the same time, you want to spend some time with the patient. Then the best option is, a lot of NGOs have some rural health camps or even urban health camps where some good holiday spots also. There you can associate with them spend some time in the NGO or in the rural health center. At the same time, you spend a holiday. But the best thing is that you need a break. Don't combine work and holiday. It's not that much easy. So if you want to take a break, go break, forget about your studies, work, everything, enjoy the holiday, refresh and come back. That's the best way to re-energize, rejuvenate. Everybody needs breaks. Break from everything because that thing you are doing continuously now, that is stress. Even if you are doing service, that's a stress. If suppose a housewife doing all the housewife all the year, it's a stress for her. It's not, it's compulsory. At the same time, the same thing with us also. We need a break. So don't mix these two. Take a holiday, it's must. And if you can want to mix it, that's what take a tie up with an NGO or rural background so that you can have.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Devaraj Reddy. I think this was a brilliant session, a one of its kind, a very nice open forum for students to also ask questions career related. And I think you gave it in a very different perspective, right? We all saw it in a very different perspective. Very encouraging words for all our FFE scholars. And I'm sure they have enjoyed this session. We had over 250, 270 students participate today. So really, thank you for your time and presence here.
Thank you so much for giving this opportunity. I am looking forward to interact more. And I would like to know from the scholars what they want to listen, what they want to learn. Because it's like an introduction session. I have gone through all the aspects which are important. If they want a particular thing, we can have more sessions on that particular topic also.
Yes, I will share, if you're okay, I will share your slides with the scholars.
Yeah, please do.
Yes, and I have also shared your contact information.
Sure.
Maybe they will reach out to you, but we also have our, managing trustee, Dr. Sudha, who would like to say a few words.
Yes, good evening. And I want to particularly thank you, Dr. Reddy. I've been silently listening to everything that you've been talking about. I don't think we've ever had this kind of very frank, open discussion. I think you've addressed a lot of the questions that students have, but often don't know who to ask. And I think you've really bridged the gap for all our students, and I can see the numbers are so high because of the interest in your topic and addressing very basic questions that students have and may have just been able to discuss it with their peers. So to have an expert like you give us the time, I want to say thank you very much on behalf of the Foundation for Excellence. And I think, students now have a new exposure, new ideas for them to think about what their future will look like as doctors. And it's such a noble profession. It's a service-oriented profession. And I think it is a lifetime of learning. From what I understand, all the advances made in medical science, so that interest has to be there and a lot of hard work. And it's wonderful that you can provide guidance about how to choose a career that will actually bring much satisfaction. It's a lot of thought-provoking points that you brought up. So thank you very much. And it's a wonderful opportunity for our students. And I agree with you, Pratana. It's great that if we could share this with a larger our fraternity of students and our alumni. We have a large number. So we will, if you permit, we will use your recording and make it available to a larger audience.
Sure, ma'am. I am very humble. And I learned because I have gone through my journey again. Though 25 years journey, I joined MBBS 94. So yes. I have gone through my journey all again. So I have also learned so much. I am looking forward for more this kind of sessions in future. And I would also like to receive my recording, this recording. You can share with everybody. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Doctor, once again. Thank you, Sudha. And thank you, dear FFE scholars, for your time today. I really hope you had a great session. We will share a feedback form with you all, and we'll really appreciate if you can give us your feedback that we will share with Dr. Reddy. And if there are any topics or any questions that you may have, please reach out to us. Or even Dr. Reddy has shared his contact details. You can reach out if we have any questions that we were not able to answer. But thank you once again for joining us this evening. And
Thank you.
we definitely will be back with more such sessions.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.